The Galactic Peace Court was silent. The air inside the Great Hall was heavy with tension. On one side of the room sat the Earth delegation, their uniforms clean and formal. On the other side, the tall and elegant Zarenth stood with glowing eyes and long necks. Between them, at the center, was a single human, Kyle Renner. Kyle was not a soldier. He was not a famous man or a trained diplomat. He was a language and cultural expert, a peaceful analyst who studied alien communication. He never thought his name would be called during such an important meeting, but now the fate of Earth and the Zarenth Dominion rested on him. The High Judge of the court, a neutral being with a large oval head and shimmering silver skin, stood and raised its hand. This war, the judge said, is born from misunderstandings, pride, and pain. It must end before it begins. The alien leader of the Zarenth, a tall woman with blue skin and gold markings on her cheeks, narrowed her eyes. "We lost a patrol ship," she said in a cold voice. "We demand justice." Earth's ambassador replied, "Your ship entered our space. We acted in defense. We want peace, not war." The judge nodded. "Then let peace be sealed with union." Everyone went silent. The judge turned to Kyle. "You, human, have studied the Zarenth. You have shown respect for their culture. You have no military background and no political ambition. You are the perfect symbol of peace." Kyle blinked. "What does that mean?" "You will marry the 3 granddaughters of the Zarenth leader," the judge said calmly. "This marriage will form a new bond between Earth and Zarenth. If you refuse, the Zarenth will declare war." Kyle stood frozen. I didn't sign up for this." The Zarenth leader nodded. "It is our tradition. A peaceful union joins 2 people and 2 worlds. My granddaughters are ready." Kyle looked at the humans beside him. They stared at him with serious faces. His own ambassador whispered, "It's your choice. But if you say no, war is certain." Kyle's heart beat fast. He looked at the Zarenth across the room. He had never met their granddaughters. He didn't even know what they looked like. He had read about their customs, but marrying 3 alien women? Was that really the only way to save Earth? "I accept," he said quietly. The courtroom buzzed with whispers. The Zarenth leader gave a slow nod, and the judge banged the staff once. "It is decided," the judge said. "Prepare for the bonding ceremony. The human shall travel with the Zarenth to their homeworld." 2 days later, Kyle stood at the entrance of a Zarenth starship. The hull shimmered with strange patterns. He carried only a small bag, clothes, a translator device, and a book on alien customs. A Zarenth guard led him inside. "You will be taken to your room. You will meet the granddaughters one by one." "Are they okay with this?" Kyle asked, nervously. The guard gave no answer. The room was smooth and silver with no sharp edges. The walls glowed with soft light. Kyle sat down and tried to calm his thoughts. Everything was happening so fast. The door opened and a figure stepped in. The first granddaughter entered. She was tall, with greenish-blue skin and sharp gold eyes. Her posture was stiff, like a warrior. She looked at him with a serious face. "I'm Sorella," she said. "I trained for battle. I agreed to this marriage to honor my people. Do not waste my time." Kyle stood up. I understand. I'm not here to disrespect anyone." She looked him up and down. "You are soft." "Most humans are," he replied with a half smile. She said nothing more and left the room. Kyle let out a breath. "That went well," he said to himself. Later that day, the second granddaughter visited. She was shorter, with glowing silver eyes and a soft voice. She smiled at him gently. "I am Thalexa. I always wanted to meet a human. You are different than I imagined." Kyle relaxed a bit. "Different good or different bad?" "Different. Interesting." They talked for a while. She asked about Earth, about animals, music, and food. Kyle felt like she was genuinely curious. "I hope we can become friends," she said before leaving. The last granddaughter came at night. She was quiet, her face half hidden under a long hood. Her skin was a dark purple blue and her voice was low. "I am Vari," she said. "I didn't want this marriage, but I obey my family." Kyle didn't know what to say. She looked at him. "If you try to play games, I will know. If you are honest, I may learn to accept you." Then she turned and left. Kyle sat down again. His head was full of thoughts. Each granddaughter was different. This was not going to be easy, but the court had chosen him. The peace between Earth and the Zarenth was now tied to him and 3 women he barely knew. As the ship moved through space, Kyle looked out the window at the stars. His life had changed, forever, and it was only the beginning. The journey to Zarenth Prime took 3 days through warp space. Kyle Renner spent most of that time trying to understand his strange situation. He was now engaged, by court order, to 3 alien granddaughters. And if he failed to bond with them, a full war between Earth and the Zarenth Dominion could break out. He barely slept. Every time he closed his eyes, he remembered the courtroom, the silence, the judge's voice, and the way the Zarenth leader stared at him with no emotion. The Zarenth starship felt more like a temple than a spaceship. The halls were curved, smooth and glowing with soft silver light. Zarenth technology was quiet. No humming engines, no shaking floors. It made everything feel peaceful, but also eerie. Each day, one of the granddaughters spent time with him. Not as a couple, but more like a test. Sorella, the warrior Sorella, took Kyle to a training hall on the 2nd day. "Watch and learn," she said firmly, handing him a short wooden staff. Kyle blinked. "Are we sparring?" "You must know how to defend yourself. You are marrying into the leader's bloodline." Before he could answer, she swung her staff. Kyle blocked clumsily. Her strikes were fast but controlled, not meant to hurt. "Just test him." He stumbled. She shook her head. "You have quick eyes, but weak arms." "Not all humans train for battle," Kyle replied, stepping back. Sorella stopped and stared at him. "Then how do you protect your family?" "With words, with logic, with laws," he said, breathing hard. Sorella said nothing for a moment. Then, to his surprise, she nodded once. "Interesting answer. Different, but not useless." They trained for another hour. She didn't smile, but her strikes softened, and she corrected his stance a few times. As they walked back to his room, she said, "I do not need love, but I respect strength. If you show me you can stand even when afraid, I may not regret this union." It wasn't romantic, but it was something. Thalexa, the curious on the 3rd day. Thalexa invited Kyle to her private garden. It was a strange, indoor space filled with alien plants, some floating in the air, some glowing gently. "I grow these myself," she said proudly. "Zarenth does not have trees like Earth, but I like your nature videos." Kyle smiled. "You watch nature videos?" "Yes, especially the ones with small animals." "What do you call them?" "Cats?" Kyle laughed. "Yes, cats, they're very popular." Thalexa sat beside him on a bench made of clear crystal. "I want this marriage to work," she said quietly. "But not because of war or orders. I want to understand you." Kyle looked at her. Her eyes were kind and open. "We may be from different worlds," he said, "but maybe that helps us see each other better." She nodded slowly. Thalexa showed him a flower that changed color with music. She played a soft melody on a Zarenth flute, and the petals glowed yellow. When Kyle hummed a human tune, the flower turned green. They both laughed. Before they parted, Thalexa reached out and touched his hand gently. "You are not like what I expected. That's good." Her smile stayed in Kyle's mind for a long time. Vari, the silent watcher Vari, didn't invite Kyle. She simply appeared in his room one evening. She stood at the door and stared. "You are being watched," she said. Kyle sat up from the couch. "By who?" "Not me. Others." She entered and closed the door behind her. Some in my family do not believe this marriage will help. They think peace is weakness. Kyle frowned. And what do you believe? Vari didn't answer right away. She looked out the window at the stars. I believe peace must be protected, she finally said. But I also believe peace can be used. Like a mask. Kyle stood and walked to her side. You don't trust me, he said. I don't trust many, she replied. But I respect truth. Don't lie to me, human. If you wish to run, do it now, before it's too late. I'm not running, Kyle said softly. Even if I'm scared, I won't run. She turned and looked at him. For the first time, her face softened a little. You are honest, she said. Maybe. That is rare. Then she left without another word. A warning. From the shadows that night, Kyle couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about what Vari said. Someone didn't want this marriage to succeed. Someone wanted war. The next morning, a small drone flew into his room while he was brushing his teeth. It projected a message in red light. Go home, human, before someone makes sure you never leave. Kyle stared at the message, heart pounding. He ran to the hallway and reported it to the nearest Zarinth guard. The guard looked at him with calm eyes. You are not in danger. Yet. But some oppose this peace. Stay close to your escorts. Kyle realized something then. He wasn't just a groom. He was a target, the arrival at Zarinth Prime. After 3 days, the starship entered orbit around Zarinth Prime. Kyle stood at the viewing window. The planet below was breathtaking, green oceans, golden deserts, and silver mountain peaks. The bayou cities glowed like stars on the surface. The 3 granddaughters stood behind him in ceremonial clothing. Cirella in armor polished to a shine, Thalexa in a gown of moving silk, Vari in a dark cloak with silver embroidery. The Zarinth leader waited on the planet's surface. The bonding ceremony was in 3 days. Kyle swallowed hard. His heart was full of questions, fears, and something else. Hope. He was no longer just a human analyst. He was part of a new beginning, or a war waiting to happen. Zarinth Prime was unlike anything Kyle had ever seen. The capital city, Zelkara, floated above the land, held up by giant energy fields. Glass bridges connected silver towers, and long banners waved in the air. The sky was bright purple, and 2 moons hovered quietly above. It was beautiful and strange. Kyle stepped off the shuttle with the 3 granddaughters beside him. A large crowd of Zarinth citizens watched from a distance. Some smiled, some remained cold, and some turned away. Not everyone liked the idea of peace. The Zarinth leader, Lady Virelia, stood at the top of the platform. She was tall and graceful, wearing a long cloak made of tiny silver feathers. Her eyes were sharp as always. You have arrived, she said to Kyle. Good. You will begin the bonding rites tomorrow. Kyle bowed slightly. Yes, ma'am. She studied him. Do not embarrass us. That was her welcome. The Whispering Hall Kyle was taken to a guest room in the Royal Tower. It was large, clean, and filled with strange furniture. Nothing had corners. Everything was smooth, rounded, and glowing with a soft blue light. He sat on the bed and sighed. The silence made his head spin. This wasn't just about marriage anymore. Someone had sent him a threat. Vari had warned him. There were enemies nearby, maybe inside this very tower. Later that evening, Cirella knocked on his door. Put this on, she said, handing him a small metal badge. What is it? Kyle asked. It's a body shield. Weak, but better than nothing. You think someone will attack me here? I know someone will try. She left him without another word. Kyle clipped the badge onto his belt and locked his door for the night. Still, he couldn't sleep. An unexpected meeting. The next morning, a message arrived. A royal advisor had requested to meet him in the Whispering Hall, an ancient place used for private talks. Kyle was curious and cautious. 2 guards led him through the floating gardens and long corridors. The whispering hall was quiet and strange. The walls were made of crystal that echoed sound in soft patterns. An old Zarenth male stood in the middle. His robes were plain, but his eyes were sharp. "I am Elder Kovan," he said, "and I believe you are in danger." Kyle nodded slowly. "I've already received threats." "The bonding must happen," Kovan said. "The people need peace. But there are groups who want war. They believe Zarenth has become weak. They want to destroy the agreement and you." Kyle frowned. "What can I do? I'm just one man." "You can survive," Kovan replied. "If you live through the ceremony, the peace will be accepted. But if you fall before it, war returns." The old man handed him a small device. "This records energy changes. If someone uses a hidden weapon near you, this will alert you. Keep it close." Kyle nodded and thanked him. As he left the hall, he saw a figure watching him from the shadows. The figure turned away before he could react. A walk with Thalexa later that day, Thalexa invited Kyle to walk through her private sky garden. The air was warm and soft music floated from glowing plants. "Are you okay?" she asked, sensing his stress. "I don't know," Kyle admitted. "Everyone's warning me. I feel like I'm not a groom. I'm a target." Thalexa stopped, walking. "You are both, and that is not fair." He looked at her. "Do you believe in this marriage? Or is it just duty?" Thalexa smiled softly. "At first, it was duty. But now, I don't know. I like your honesty, your kindness. I see no lies in your eyes." Kyle smiled for the first time that day. "Thank you." She touched his hand. "We are strangers now, but maybe, in time, we can become something more." For a moment, the war and threats faded from Kyle's mind. The saboteur strikes that night as Kyle prepared for bed. The alarm on the device Kovan gave him beeped. Red lights blinked. Something was in the room. He turned just in time to see a shadow move across the ceiling. A sharp hiss followed, and a small dart flew at him. He jumped aside, and the dart hit the wall, melting it slightly. Poison. Kyle grabbed the shield badge. It glowed faintly as a second dart bounced off it. The intruder landed with a thud, wearing a full black suit and a helmet. Kyle ran for the door, but it locked. The intruder raised a weapon, then the door exploded open. Cirella burst in, swinging a metal staff. She struck the attacker in the shoulder, and they flew back, smashing into the wall. Guards arrived seconds later and dragged the attacker away. Cirella turned to Kyle. "Are you hurt?" "No," he breathed. "But I was close." She nodded. "You need to stop walking around like a harmless bird. You're a symbol now, and symbols must be protected." He looked at her with new respect. "Thank you for saving me." "You still have the bonding trials to survive," she said, then walked away. Vari's secret. The next day, Vari came to Kyle's room. "You were attacked." Kyle nodded. "Yes, they almost killed me." Vari stared at him. "Then they will. Try again. I figured that out." She stepped closer. "The bonding trials are not just ceremony. They test your courage, mind, and heart. The trials were not meant for humans. Some think you will fail. Others will make sure you do." Kyle asked, "Are you one of them?" Vari didn't answer at first. Then she said, "I was. But now, I'm not sure." She took a small silver pendant from her cloak and placed it in his hand. "This will help you during the first trial," she whispered. "Don't tell anyone I gave it to you." "Why are you helping me?" "Because if you fall, everything falls with you." The trials begin the next morning. The first bonding trial began. Kyle stood inside a giant hall shaped like a dome. Thousands watched from above. Lights flashed across the walls. Lady Virelia stood beside the judge. The 3 granddaughters watched from a balcony. The judge raised its voice. "Let the human begin the trial of flame." A circle of fire surrounded Kyle. In the center was a narrow path of light. He had to walk it, blindfolded, while facing images from his past. His fears, his failures, his pain. Kyle placed the blindfold over his eyes. He stepped forward. Memories. Hit him. His father yelling, his sister in the hospital, people calling him weak, useless, strange. He gritted his teeth. He remembered Thalexa's smile, Sirella's protection, Vari's gift. One step, then another. The fire felt close, but it didn't burn. He made it across. The blindfold came off. The judge spoke. He has passed the first trial. Kyle looked up at the granddaughters. They were not smiling, but their eyes held something different now. Maybe. This marriage wasn't just about peace anymore, maybe. It was becoming something real. The moment Kyle crossed the trial of flame, the air in the great hall shifted. The crowd's murmurs softened, replaced by a new kind of respect. Yet Kyle knew the journey was far from over. The Zarenth judge lifted its arms, signaling the start of the next challenge. The trial of mind begins. Kyle was guided to a separate chamber, its walls glowing faintly blue. Inside stood a strange device, a tall, clear cylinder filled with swirling lights. You must face your fears and doubts inside the mind chamber, the judge explained. Many who enter feel lost, trapped in their own thoughts. You must find clarity to survive. Kyle swallowed hard. His heart pounded, but he took a deep breath and stepped inside. Inside the mind chamber. The cylinder sealed behind him with a soft hiss. The swirling lights grew brighter, then faded into darkness. Suddenly, Kyle found himself in a shadowy room filled with echoes. Whispers surrounded him. Voices from his past, people he loved, and those who had doubted him. "Why are you here?" his father's voice asked, cold and distant. "You'll never be good enough," came the voice of an old teacher. The whispers grew louder, trying to pull Kyle into despair. But Kyle clenched his fists. "No," he said firmly. "I am more than your doubts. I have faced worse, and I stand here still." Images of Thalexa's smile, Sirella's strength, and Vari's gift appeared in his mind, shining like beacons. Slowly the darkness lifted. The whispers faded, until only silence remained. A bright light filled the chamber, and the door opened. Kyle stepped out, his face calm but tired. A surprise visit, A's. Kyle rested, the door opened quietly. Vari stepped in, her face unreadable. "You did well," she said softly. "Thank you. Your pendant helped," Kyle replied. Vari nodded. "It's old magic, from our ancestors. It guards the mind." Kyle looked at her closely. "Why are you helping me?" "I thought you didn't want this marriage." Vari hesitated. "I didn't. But now I see that peace needs more than rules. It needs trust, and maybe you can bring that." Kyle smiled faintly. "I want to try." Sirella's challenge the next day, Sirella led Kyle to a high platform overlooking a training arena. "The final trial is the trial of strength," she said. "You must face me." Kyle's eyes widened. "You want to fight me?" "Not to hurt you," she said, "but to see if you can protect those you care about." Kyle nodded. "I'm ready." They stepped into the arena. Sirella moved quickly, testing his reflexes. Kyle dodged and blocked as best he could, but she was strong and skilled. He stumbled but remembered her words. Stand even when afraid. Kyle found new strength inside himself. He focused on balance, not speed. On defense, not attack. Slowly, Sirella's strikes became less fierce. She nodded. "You are stronger than I thought," she said. "Not in muscle, but in spirit." Kyle smiled, exhausted but proud. A growing bond after the trial, the granddaughters gathered with Kyle in a quiet garden. Thalexa spoke first. "You have passed the trials, but the bonding ceremony is more than tests." Vari added, "It is a promise. A future." Sirella looked at Kyle. "I do not know if I will love you, but I respect you." Kyle looked at them. "I don't know what the future holds, but I want to learn from each of you." They nodded. For the first time, Kyle felt hope, not just for peace between worlds, but for something deeper. The saboteurs' strike. That night, as Kyle prepared for rest, a sudden explosion shook the tower. Alarms blared. The bonding chamber was under attack. Kyle, Sirella, Thalexa and Vari rushed toward the chamber. Guards blocked their way, fighting shadowy figures dressed in black. Kyle saw one saboteur aiming a weapon at the Granddaughters. Without thinking, Kyle pushed them aside and grabbed the attacker. A struggle began. Kyle fought with everything he had, fueled by fear and determination. The Granddaughters joined him, their combined strength surprising the attackers. Together, they defeated the saboteurs. The leader of the attack, a rogue Earth soldier, was captured. Peace. For now Lady Virelia arrived, her face stern but relieved. The attack was meant to destroy us, she said. But your bravery saved the ceremony. Kyle looked at the Granddaughters. We did this together, he said. Lady Virelia nodded. Tomorrow, the bonding ceremony will proceed. As the tower settled, Kyle realized that peace was fragile, but it was worth fighting for. The day of the bonding ceremony dawned bright and clear over Zarinth Prime. The purple skies seemed calm, the twin moons shining faintly in the morning light. Yet beneath the peaceful sky, tension hummed like an electric current. Kyle stood before the Grand Hall, dressed in ceremonial robes that felt strange and heavy on his body. The three Granddaughters, Cirella, Alexa, and Vari, stood beside him, each looking both regal and nervous. Lady Virelia, the Zarinth leader, and their grandmother awaited inside, surrounded by the Council of Elders and a crowd of thousands. From across the Dominion and Earth's representatives, the eyes of two worlds were upon them. The ceremony begins. The great doors opened with a soft hiss, and the ceremony commenced. Kyle's heart pounded as he followed the Granddaughters through, halls adorned with glowing banners and ancient symbols. The ritual was unlike anything Kyle had imagined. They were led to a circular chamber where a soft blue light bathed the room. In the center, an ancient altar hummed with energy. Lady Virelia spoke in the old tongue, her voice clear and strong. The Granddaughters each took Kyle's hands in turn, their touch both foreign and comforting. As the ritual progressed, the energy from the altar flowed into Kyle and the three Granddaughters. It connected their spirits, binding them in a way deeper than words. Kyle felt a warmth spread through him. He realized this was more than a political union. It was a bond of trust, hope, and new beginnings. The sabotage. Unleashed suddenly, alarms blared throughout the hall. The air shook with a violent explosion near the entrance. Saboteurs had struck again, hoping to destroy the ceremony and bring war. Chaos erupted. The crowd screamed and scattered as guards rushed to contain the attackers. Kyle shielded the Granddaughters, pushing them behind the altar. Energy shields flared up around them, protecting them from debris and blasts. With the Granddaughters by his side, Kyle fought off the attackers. Cirella's combat skills were fierce. Thalexa used quick and precise moves, and Vari's calm focus deflected dangers with surprising speed. Together, they formed a strong team, defending the ceremony and each other. A moment of bravery. One saboteur aimed a plasma rifle directly at Lady Virelia. Without hesitation, Kyle stepped forward, throwing himself between the leader and the weapon. The blast struck Kyle's shield badge, glowing brightly and absorbing the energy. Kyle felt the heat but stood firm. The attacker was subdued by guards, but Kyle's act saved Lady Virelia's life. The crowd watched in stunned silence, then erupted in cheers. Peace. Secured. Lady Virelia stood, her eyes shining with pride. This brave human has proven his worth, she said, her voice echoing through the hall. Let this union be a symbol of peace and strength. The Council of Elders nodded in agreement. Kyle looked at the Granddaughters. Their faces reflected relief and something new. Respect, perhaps even affection. Thalexa smiled softly at him. Cirella gave a rare nod of approval. Vari, still quiet, simply held his hand. A new beginning. The ceremony ended with a promise. Peace between Earth and the Zarinth Dominion, sealed by this unusual marriage. Kyle understood that his life had changed forever. He was no longer just a human analyst. He was a husband, a symbol, a bridge between two worlds. The road ahead would not be easy. He would face challenges, learn, new customs, and navigate the complexities of this new family. But Kyle felt ready for peace, for love, and for the future.